Hello and welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. This show is all about audio production for podcasts. We get really deep into podcast production. I actually produce podcasts for various companies, and I also teach at Podcast Engineering School. And on this show, we alternate between interviews with podcast producers and engineers and Daily Goody episodes like this one, where I'm going to talk about 6 of the Daily Goody blog posts that I write every day. And you can actually sign up to receive the Daily Goodies in your email as either daily or a weekly roundup. Everything's on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com, and the next semester starts January 12th. So that's going to be exciting. And just to let you know what we're going to cover in this episode, I'm going to demonstrate the sound of the Heil PR 30 and the Heil PR 40. We're going to switch back and forth a little. I'm going to cover 6 Daily Goodies, and I'm also going to cover all the new plugins that I recently bought for like Black Friday and like pre-Christmas sales and stuff. So I'll cover the plugins at the very end. Obviously, the main part of the episode are the Daily Goodies. So this episode is actually exciting. I have a whole different setup here. I'm actually speaking into 2 different microphones, the Heil PR 30 and the Heil PR 40. I'm recording them both side by side, and so we're going to switch back and forth so you can hear the difference. If you didn't hear my episode, the previous episode of the show, number 207, which was with Michelle Levitt from Heil, definitely check that out. That was a really fun episode. First, though, I want to tell you about the Focusrite 2i2 3rd Gen, and while I tell you about the Focusrite 2i2 3rd Gen, I'm going to switch back and forth. So up till now, you've been hearing the PR 40. Okay, so you've been hearing the PR 40. And for this next section, we're going to switch to the PR 30. Okay, we're going to switch to the PR 30 right now. Okay, and now I'm going to read this. In December, actually, I don't know if you knew this, Focusrite has a limited time partnership with Shure. You know, Shure microphones, Shure. And they're offering an SM58 along with a Scarlet 2i2 and a pair of headphones, SRH 440s, at a pretty good discount with some select dealers. So there's going to be a link in the description in the show notes here. It's called the Create and Cast Bundle. So check out the Create and Cast Bundle, and there'll be a link in the show notes. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And so, okay, we've been using the PR 30 now. Now I'm going to switch back to the PR 40 here. Okay, now we're back on the PR 40, and I just want to tell you about the new Scarlet 3rd Gen. So the Scarlet 3rd generation interfaces are the world's best-selling interfaces. There's 6 different interfaces with different numbers of inputs, 1, 2, 4 inputs, 8 inputs. Really good sound quality, works with whatever software you're using, works with any type of XLR microphone. And on select units, they have this loopback little app that you can run on your computer to actually record Skype and Zoom calls directly into your recording software. And there's a new air feature, which I'm going to turn on in a second. The air feature on the 3rd Gen Focusrite Scarlet interfaces. See, the 2i2 is a 2-input model, but they make, other models with different numbers, right? So it's really the Focusrite Scarlet series has the air feature, so the air button. So I'm going to turn on the air button now. And again, reminder, we're still listening to the PR 40 right now. You are listening to the PR 40 right now. I'm going to go run across the room and switch the air button on. All right, now I switched the air button on, so that adds some like high frequency clarity, and we're still on the PR 40 right now. So this is the PR 40 with the air button pressed in on the Scarlet. And now let's switch back to the 30. Okay, now we're on the PR 30 with the air button in, and this is how it sounds. And the PR 30 apparently, well, as far as what Michelle said, was that it has a little bit less low end. But anyway, this is the PR 30 with the air mode on. And so now I'm going to go shut off the air mode and we'll switch back to the PR 40. And I'm going to do the rest of the episode on the PR 40 without the air button pressed in. So, okay, let me go do that. All right, so let's get into the daily goodies. Again, I'm using the PR 40 without the air button in. So the first daily goodie is specializing in producing and editing podcasts in a specific niche. All right, so some people like to do this. They like to, specialize in a specific niche, and it works out really well. In fact, it's one way of growing a podcast production business is to focus on a specific niche. And this makes it possible to become the go-to production person in that niche. It also enables you to have more fun if you already love that niche. And it also allows you to learn lots of niche-specific knowledge that can be helpful to future clients in that niche, right? I'm saying niche a lot. Anyway, you get the idea. And it doesn't mean you have to automatically reject any clients that are not in the niche that you've chosen. You could still, work with other shows and other people, especially if you're in the beginning of growing your production business, your editing business. You probably just want to take on as many clients as you can, right? Just to get it up and running and start being profitable. But anyway, niching down is pretty cool. And if you have niched down, I would really like to know what niche you're operating in. That'd be pretty cool to know. So leave it in the comments. Okay, next daily goodie is the new course that I announced back at the end of September, which was getting new clients at higher rates. And anyway, there was I think I launched it October 1st, and it's still there now. You could still go buy it and take the course. It's an on-demand course, and it's smaller, and it's not as expensive as the main podcast engineering school course, but it's really cool. So, if you're an editor or you're doing post-production on podcasts and you want to get new clients and you want to charge higher rates, basically that's what the course is about, and that's what I teach. So a bunch of people have already taken it. They really love it. I think it came out really well, so that's cool. And if it's not for you, then if you do know anybody who's producing podcasts and they want, new clients at higher rates, point them in the direction of that course, podcastengineeringschool.com. You'll find it there. All right, next daily goodie. What is dynamic range processing? Okay, so I got this term, dynamic range processing, from an article which was written by Georg and Thomas from Auphonic. It's a blog post they wrote, and I linked to it in the daily goodie. Oh, and I forgot to mention, all the daily goodies that I discuss will be in the show notes with links. So you can just click, you can read the title and click right to the actual post. It's nice and easy. But anyway, dynamic range processing, it's really important. And really what it means is just compressing the dynamic range into a range that's good for the listener. So we all know that, if your audio gets way too loud and then it gets way too soft, that's hard for listeners to put up with, because when you get loud, you hurt their eardrums. And when you talk really softly, they literally can't hear you. So that's why we use compression and all these things. And Auphonic, has the leveler that does a good job of leveling out the audio. So that's good. So check out the post that I linked to in this daily goodie. I personally, all the episodes that I produce, I run them through iZotope RX, and I set them to the proper LUFS level. And during production, I actually use, quite a bit of compression. Not too much, but I use, 2 or 3 compressors on each voice, because, it helps get it into that range. And in RX, which is pretty cool, there's a loudness module in RX, and actually we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So, but the last thing I want to mention about the dynamic range processing is that Auphonic has advanced settings where you can actually set the dynamic range. And what I've noticed, my episodes usually end up between 4.8 and 6.3 LRA, loudness range. So the LR is loudness range, and I think it's measured in LUFS. Sorry, it's measured in LU, Paul. It's measured in LU, loudness units. So 4.8 to 6.3 loudness units, loudness range, I should say. So that's mine. But I don't know, the last few episodes I've done have been coming out like, 7.5 or 8 LRA, which seems too much. I think I think having like between 4 and 6 is a good range because you're compressing it a lot. But, if you go like to 3, loudness range of like 3, that's like really, really compressed. And it's too compressed. It sounds really artificial. So anyway, in Auphonic, you can set that loudness range, and you can also, in RX, you can tell what your episodes are coming out to. It'll tell you the loudness range, and then if you want to, compress it more or limit it more, you can. All right. And dynamic range is really important. It's one of those things that beginning podcasters don't focus on because they don't know about it. But keeping your episodes loudness in a good range so people can hear it, even when it's lower volume, like even when people are talking softly, that's really important. In fact, it's vital. It's not even important. It is literally vital because those are the times when people will literally turn off your show if they can't hear it anymore. So, all right, and we've talked a lot about that over the years on this show. All right, next daily goodie, noting down your hardware settings. Yeah, like if you have hardware, like if you have a channel strip or you have any hardware, even if it's an interface, even if it's a Focusrite Scarlet interface or a channel strip, you might want to write down the hardware settings, like make a drawing of your settings. And they make these things called recall sheets. You can get them online. So if you have like, for instance, if you have a DBX 286S, you can find like a blank printout of the front panel of the DBX 286S online, and you could like print it out. And then you literally just take a pencil or a pen, usually a pencil, and just like draw where all the knobs are pointing. And that way, see, here's the reason you want to do that is because if there's ever, if your knobs ever get twisted or messed up, and this can happen, if you have kids or a spouse or even you just experimenting, right? Even you just twisting dials and saying, oh, does this sound good? Does that sound good? You kind of want to find a good baseline and note down those settings, and because you want to be able to go back to those settings anytime you want or need to, right? So definitely write down your hardware settings. That's kind of like that's a good pro tip, and it really helps. And you know what? You might never use it, but again, one day you just you're all the knobs might get messed up or something, or even just a few critical controls might get messed up, and you might be like, well, where did I have that knob? And then you'll be able to go back to your drawing and see. So very handy, very, very handy. Okay, the next daily goodie, where to buy sound absorption blankets and acoustic room treatments. All right, where to buy sound absorption blankets and acoustic room treatments. So I've bought some 2.5-inch acoustic foam. It's like egg crate foam, and I bought it from the Foam Factory. And again, I linked to all this in the daily goodie, so click through the show notes. And the 2.5-inch acoustic egg crate foam that I bought was pretty cheap. Big, huge sheet costs $47. And when I say big, I mean like 6 feet by 6.5 feet, like huge. If you've seen pictures of my little basement studio here, you've seen these big things. Also, Ed Sullivan, PES alumni, an awesome dude. Ed Sullivan, by the way, his website is Sonic Cupcake. Sonic Cupcake. Yeah, if you need any production, contact Ed at Sonic Cupcake. Anyway, he bought some blankets and stands for the blankets from a website called Vocal Booth to Go. And he said it was a good experience, and he said, it was a good purchase, and yeah, I don't know what he paid, but anyway, you can click through the link and see how much their blankets and stands are. Because blankets and stands, that's another way to sort of dampen down the reflections in your room. Like one way is to like put foam on the wall. Another way, like I do, is to lean foam up against the wall. It's not actually attached. It's just like leaning up against the wall. And another way is to get these blankets and stands, and then you can just basically hang the blankets wherever you want. And then you can even move them around. Like you could try different spots and see which sounds better, all that stuff. And another legendary podcast engineering school alumni, Liz Covart of Ben Franklin's World. I hope you've listened to Ben Franklin's World. That is a great podcast. And, of course, Ben Franklin is Ben Franklin. I mean, come on. Amazing human. I've read Ben Franklin's autobiography, which is like one of the greatest self-help books ever written. And it's so simple, too. It's really cool. Anyway, Liz Covart bought her custom-designed acoustic treatment from Audimute. Yeah, it's AUDI Mute. So Audimute. It's a cool company because they make acoustic treatments and it's like designer stuff. So you can, like, they can almost make any design you want, I believe. So, you know, you could, I don't even know if you could send them, like, I shouldn't say this, but maybe you can even send them like a picture of what you want the foam to look like, and then they can sort of like create the foam to look like that. I don't know how they do it, but the point is it's like custom designed acoustic treatment. And so basically when you're done, you know, treating the room, it doesn't look like a bunch of nasty foam like in my room. It actually looks like, it doesn't even look like foam. It just looks like cool decorations, you know, but it is foam and it does absorb the reflections. So Audimute is pretty cool, and I know Liz is real happy with that too. All right, next daily goodie. This is the last one. Oh, and this is iZotope RX8's new loudness control module. So the loudness control module in RX8 has a bunch of different things than RX7 had. And I won't go too into it because I didn't actually try every little nook and cranny and every little new setting. But one thing, I mean, I do use that, as I mentioned, every episode. And you have control over, like, the true peak, the integrated loudness, of course. And now you have control over short-term loudness, tolerance, and a program loudness gate. So anyway, you got to be, and the other thing to be aware of with this new loudness control module in RX8 is that there's a little gear on the top right, and if you click it, there's a checkbox that says high accuracy processing. So check that box because you want high accuracy processing. I don't know, probably takes up more CPU, but who cares? I mean, you know, you want the best quality that you can get. So I found that little checkbox because, you know, I don't know, I was just poking around, I found it. So high accuracy processing. Anyway, the loudness control module is really cool. I use it on every episode. So that's it for the daily goodies. Few last things, and then I'm going to tell you about what new plugins I recently bought. So, okay, so first, please send potential guests my way. If you know someone who, you know, does quite a bit of post-production, you know, uses a bunch of plugins and does a bunch of stuff to the audio, you know, maybe send them a note and say, hey, you know, you should connect with Chris and be a guest on his show. I will mention that there are some guests who want to be on this show, but basically they don't use enough equipment and or software to really discuss. I mean, if all someone does is plug in a USB mic and record and then just like literally upload it, or like maybe run it through Auphonic and then upload the episode, there's not much to talk about because, you know, this show is all about professional podcast production. So if someone has like a really, really simple and streamlined setup, they probably wouldn't be a good guest for this show unless they have other information or talents to share. So just keep that in mind. If you do want to suggest someone, they should at least, you know, be using some software and maybe doing some audio processing and, you know, listening with their ears and all that, you know. Okay. So, I just nudged the microphones. Hold on. I'm going to nudge it back. All right. I nudged it back. Hopefully it sounds the same. I think it does. It was like probably like a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. So I just put it back. Okay. I recently did a video. It was actually a live stream, but now it's obviously up on the internet as a video with Andrew Jelina. And he purchased my service of processing his voice using the Sheps Omni channel. And so what we did is we did a live stream where I cleaned up his voice and I processed it with the Sheps Omni channel and a few other plugins that he owned. And then basically what I do is save all the settings that I create and then I send them to Andrew. And so he can literally load the exact settings that I create into his plugins. And so it's basically me dialing in his voice to the optimum, right? And then he can just, load those settings, and boom, then he can have a great sound for years to come. So that's why people sign up for this process. But I don't know, we did a live stream. It ended up being more than an hour and a half long, and it was pretty cool. We really discussed a lot of things. He asked questions. So I will link to that video in the show notes as well if you do want to watch that, if you want to watch me process someone's voice. Okay, and then there's the Podcasters Lounge, which is a Facebook group, right? So if you're not part of the Podcasters Lounge Facebook group, definitely find it on Facebook and join it. Podcasters Lounge, baby. Okay, and then we already talked about the new smaller course. So, all right, the last thing we'll talk about is the new plugins I recently bought. And okay, here's why I'm talking about this. Because of Black Friday sales. And then it's somehow after Black Friday, everyone just started throwing out their Christmas sales already. So I don't know, it's literally like a month and a half of sales, which is good for us audio people because we get to, buy certain plugins for pretty cheap. So, okay, so the first one I'll tell you about is Trackspacer by Wavesfactory. And this one is really cool. It's kind of like, it does a similar thing that a sidechain compressor would do, where you can, like if you use a sidechain compressor on like your intro music, and then when the host talks, the music gets compressed a little bit, gets pushed down, and that way you can hear the host's voice clearly over the music. And then if the host stops talking, the music comes back up in volume a little bit. So it's kind of like when the host talks, the music gets pushed down a bit to make room for the host's voice. Well, this Trackspacer plugin does a similar thing, but it's even more intuitive and more sort of AI based because it doesn't just push down the volume of the entire music. It only pushes down the frequencies where the voice is. So it's pretty cool. And I mean, I don't want to talk about it more than that. I mean, that's the general description of it. And there's a little more to it. Not really, but there's more to it if you want to look into it. Okay, so the next plugin is the Abbey Road RS124 compressor. This is brand new, actually. This came out, I think it was a little bit after Black Friday. They came out with it. It's brand new, and it's it's a vintage tube compressor from Abbey Road Studios, and they modeled it, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's not even that expensive, and it's very smooth, and I kind of liked it a lot. All right, so the next plugin. And of course, I will list these in the show notes and link to them all as well. So go to the show notes and click through, and you'll be able to see all the details about any of these plugins. So Plugin Alliance had a sale on their Amec EQ 200. This is a $400 EQ, and it was on sale for, I think it was $200 or $99. I don't know. Anyway, I bought it. The Amec EQ 200. Really, it's just a very, very high quality EQ. I wouldn't call it necessary for podcast production, but you guys know, so just, I should have said this before I started telling you about all these plugins. So I am like a crazy person with plugins, and it's because I work on music as well, right? So I have a lot of plugins, and I try a lot of plugins. But for podcast production, most of these plugins are not necessary, right? I mean, you could use them if you want to, but you don't have to. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy everything that I'm talking about. Also, with Plugin Alliance, there was another one on sale. It's called dearVR Pro, and it's really cool. It's like, I think it's mostly used for like video and film production when they want to like place a voice in a certain environment or a certain space, like a 3D space. And so it's like all 3D like reverb and reflections, and you can place voices in different distances from each other. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty awesome. Another one was the Vocal Enhancer by Noveltech. That was also through Plugin Alliance. Then I got the Decapitator, finally. Yes, the Decapitator. This is a famous plugin in music production because it's it's analog saturation, and it's also distortion. And with music, a lot of times you want a little grit, you want some distortion. For podcasting, we really don't need it. And the Decapitator is really cool distortion. So then I got the Melodyne 5, which is like pitch correction. Then I got the Quadravox pitch shifter. Okay, then literally just yesterday and today, I got a bunch more from Waves because they gave me a voucher when I signed up for their upgrade, or the version 12 upgrade or something. So anyway, I got the CLA 3A. It's a compressor, and I actually used that in my video with Andrew Jelina because he has that plugin. So it was kind of cool. Like literally 20 minutes before we did that live stream, I bought the plugin that he has so that I could use it on his voice, and I did, and it's actually a good plugin. I also got the TG12345. I got MaxxVolume, and I got MV2, and those two are related. And I'm gonna start doing videos on plugins because there's a lot of cool plugins, and those two, MaxxVolume and MV2 from Waves, are pretty cool in the sense that you could use them for podcast production. They're almost like, well, they do a similar job as Vocal Rider, but they do it in a different way. Anyway, and I'll tell you more about that when I do a video on those specific plugins. Abbey Road Chambers I got, so it's chamber reverb. I also got the Ir1 Convolution Reverb. So Convolution Reverb is like, I talked about it with Pascal Wyse on episode 168, and I will link to that. So episode 168, because he uses a convolution reverb. I don't know if he uses this one. I think it's a different one. But convolution reverb is like when it's not just artificial reverb. They actually go into the various physical spaces and they set up a bunch of mics and they record the actual reverb. And then they model that. So I think a lot of times it can be more accurate. And I think convolution reverb is also used a lot in like film and TV production, stuff like that. And then I got the Eddie Kramer bass channel because I had to pick another free plugin. I didn't know what to pick. So I'll use that for music. But anyway, that's it. That's the episode. We covered a lot. You heard the PR30, the PR40. We did all the daily goodies and we talked about plugins. So, all right, we'll be back next week with an awesome guest. And of course, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, go to the website and there's a contact page and just send me a note, even if you just want to say hi. So go to podcastengineeringschool.com and go to the contact page and just send me a note. Send me a love note. I mean, I only get love notes from Ralph M. Rivera. No one else. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And if I missed any details or anything, please tell me in the comments and enlighten us. All right. See you guys.